In today's episode of Widow Wisdom and Wealth, you're going to be hearing from just me, just little old me. And the title of this podcast is going to be The Guilt with Being Okay. I think you might know exactly what I'm talking about if you're a widow or a widower or a survivor of a big life transition. Listen in. This one's genuine, it's short, and I hope it means something to you. So hi everybody and welcome to Widow Wisdom Wealth. I am Donna Kendrick, owner and founder of Sefton Financial, where we do financial planning for families in transition. But more than that, I am also an author, I am a podcaster, I am a speaker. And what subject do I lean in most? Yep, it's those in widowhood that are struggling to keep their career afloat while managing a family, managing a social life, managing their emotions, and trying to raise these beautiful kids to be contributors into our world, to make sure that they're doing it in love, in faith, and in good nature. And then how do we juggle all of those balls? So many of times we interview widows and widowers or our colleagues that support our community to help with shared experiences. Where are we now? How did we get there? What are our struggles? Because many of times we find that what might have happened to somebody else actually happens to us too. And this is what happened to me this week. And I do feel compelled to record this podcast. You might not know, but it is 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. All of my kids are just getting ready for school. The dogs are out. Dinner, I cook my dinner in the morning, about 80% done, so that when the kids come home from school, it just takes me 10 minutes to actually pull it together. That's all done. And I really, the whole time I was doing my morning routine today, I wanted to be on this podcast. I wanted to record something that means a lot to me. So let's set the scene. As many of you know, I recreated my career and my life after the loss of my husband in 2013, all while raising three kids. Fast forward to 2025, I am remarried. We have six kids, all blended right now from 16 to 24. Two have launched and are out of the house, meaning they have their own careers, their own apartments, their own lives, their own loves. And that's a beautiful thing to witness. Two are up at Penn State together, learning their craft and realizing their independence. And then two are still home in high school here. It feels a little weird just having two at home, I'll tell you that. It's a little quiet. I think I do well in chaos. But we've blended our families. And my husband and I created my business together. And we've also created a life together. We bought a home in Jenkins Town, PA, when we knew that his ex-wife was terminally ill, to make sure that his kids, that are the younger three of our blended pack, could stay in the school district where they had been raised. It's such a beautiful small borough school district. It's a walking district. There are no buses. They have, if anything, maybe 20 kids in each of their class. It very much feels like a private school. And it was a community that they've grown up in. And when their mom was so sick with cancer and the kids were really being a lot of her support and her care, it was this community that lifted them up, brought them meals, checked in on them. And I wasn't going to be moving them out of that community when their mom passed to go into the neighboring school district where I raised my kids. And it was actually my three bigger kids that sat me and Jim down and were like, guys, you got to make a move. They had lived through the loss of their dad. Because we lived kind of like a military life, they had moved every 2 years. And they saw the beautiful core of community that these kids had. So my three big kids encouraged Jim and I to buy a foreclosure house that was big enough to fit everybody over in the younger three's school district to keep them there. And that's exactly what happened. And it was a beautiful transition. When I say foreclosure house, I'm meaning, yeah, we actually had to get our sewage lines redone. There was no flushing of anything. A lot of the rooms didn't have ceilings. They didn't have something that had fallen in from water damage. And so slowly, with the help of professionals, as well as my husband, who's a trained carpenter, we've taken this house over 2 years from a foreclosure with no sewage and no flushy to a house that we live in that we're proud of. And that's very beautiful. And all of the kids can gather together. We just passed Thanksgiving. Everybody came home, and the laughter around the table and the support of the kids staying up late so they can just talk to one another. The energy of this home is amazing. And I'm very, very proud of all the sacrifices for hours at work, career sacrifices, financial sacrifices that we made. And I can't even call them sacrifices. I think that's just a pun word. They were creative moves. They were moves in faith. Because not everyone can take a financial decision and say, well, I think it's for the better cause. It might unlevel my certainty in my financial outlook, but I'm going to do it because it's better for the mass, our whole family, our blended Brady Bunch of eight, than for just me. And I say that because when my Greg passed, I wasn't making a lot of money. I think it was $17,600 a year working part-time. I'd been out of my career for 7 years, and I financially felt unstable. And it was through the work of my financial advisor. It is through the pure determination to work hard that my parents taught me that I finally, after a few years, after Greg passed, probably like 7 years after Greg passed, when I had flipped my career on its head and started financial planning for families in transition, that I felt a little bit secure in my financial backing. And that was really a different feeling for me. I had felt such scarcity before then, but we worked hard and we worked as a team. And the kids ate oodles and noodles some years when I had to go back to school and was for to become a financial planner. And my income was very limited, right? To the years like just this year, where we could actually open our doors for Thanksgiving and cook two turkeys and a ham, and I could afford to do it. That's a beautiful feeling. But when we moved into this home in Jenkintown, it unraveled my beautiful financial plan. I had to be ready to pivot for the what was next. Long story about how I got here. But what happened is what I had always feared. A few days ago, we were in a social situation here in Jenkintown, and someone referred to me as being in one of the rich houses and being one of those big stone houses. I made a judgment call on how I had spent money on artwork, artwork that was in the house that meant a lot to us. It was a custom portrait of Jenkintown. And in all the letters of the word Jenkintown was something that meant a lot to us about this community. Now, remember, my husband raised his kids in this community, left when him and I got married, and we came back when we bought this beautiful stone house. And I was really proud of this beautiful mural that we put on the wall. And the J was a historic landmark. And the E and the N and the K was a picture of a building we called the barn that my husband built. It used to be an old dance studio and converted into a home and an office space. Keep on going. There's the logo for the school in Jenki and the N and the T. It's the Drake. It's this big old duck ready to have a big fight going on. The community has been celebrating Color Day for years. So half the community are reds, half the community are blues. And depending on if you were raised in the community, you have other family members. Like Jim and I moved in and we were reds because his sister and brother-in-law live here and they're reds too. Right? So it's reds versus blues. And it's such good-hearted fun. But you'll be in a social situation, someone will be like, are you red or are you blue? So there is a big red Drake ready for the grit, ready for the game in the picture of our Jenkintown. Let's see if we can attach one to the podcast here, if anyone's watching on YouTube, so you can actually see it. Maybe we'll do a social media post so you can follow around along with it. But it means something to me. And then in the O, the W, and the end is the local Irish bar, right? And it's called the McSweeney Club. And it means a lot to my husband. Back in the day when he was younger, he was actually in an Irish band. And they had connections to the people that established and supported this small little Irish club. And everything in that picture tells a story of what Jim and I value. We value the history, we value the community, we value the hard work, we value the sense of pride. We value the fun of the community. We value respecting traditions. We value that we're here for our kids. And that mural celebrates it. But someone made a comment about me being rich and wasting my money on that mural. And it hit me. It hit me hard because I've always had a fear of being judged if I became successful, of keeping myself small, of not celebrating the hard work and the mission to help families in transition that I have out there. I felt like if I was successful financially in supporting this family, in bringing this house back to life, people would think I was greedy. People would think that I had lost my blue collar tradition. If you listen to other podcasts, my dad was a Philly firefighter. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. We were comfortable. We had food. We had a nice house. We had warmth. But there wasn't a lot extra. My dad always worked two jobs. To this very day, I work with the fact that to make money, you have to work hard. I believe that. I believe in being in grit. But I also believe that the hard work had to be balanced with the need of care for our kids. The hard work had to be offset with giving back to your community. The hard work had to be offset with giving 10% of everything you make to a cause that you believe in, that you support. Because when I work hard and when I serve my community well, everyone gains. My kids gain because I can educate them. And when I can educate 6 kids and put them back into this world to make a difference, that is priceless. I make money because I do financial planning for families in transition. Yes, I get paid for the work I do. But what I'm doing is helping each of those families make their own foundation for a great financial future so they too can raise their kids, so that I can be a partner with them because many of them are solo parents. Be a partner with them to help them understand their financial strength and to help build on that. So one day they can retire and they can possibly be stay-at-home daycare for their grandbabies and their kids can add more value. It just 100% multiplies and amplifies itself. The hard work, the building of a business, of entrepreneurship, very proud of it. And I encourage a lot of my widows, my widowers, and my divorcees. Some of them have an opportunity to switch their career, to make their career something of mission. Now, sometimes listeners, we just have to stay where we are. We have to grit through it. We have to make sure we keep benefits. We don't have the opportunity to pivot yet. That pivot time might come at 70 when we can finally retire and go back to work or volunteer in something that means a lot to us. I know I'm kind of going on a rampage to justify why I'm okay with the fact that I make money that pays for health insurance and supports our 6 kids. But someone made a judgment call about me being rich, and it stuck. And I was really feeling heavy about it. Because, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not rich. I'm middle class. I'm okay to say that. And I support beautiful causes like Safe Harbor. And yes, we support our kids in school. And yes, we live a very nice lifestyle. But I work really hard at it. And in the quiet morning, when I'm making the kids' lunches and I'm putting dinner together and taking care of the dogs and cleaning up whatever mess the dogs made in the kitchen, I listen many of times to podcasts. And out of nowhere, sometimes that feed that you have in Spotify came a podcast. And it was actually me. It was me being a guest on the Fabienne Fredrickson podcast. I've never listened to it. I recorded it. I was sick as a dog on the day I recorded it. But out of nowhere, while I'm feeling a little heavy of, wow, like I'm lumped into these people, these quote unquote rich people. Like when I was younger, like it was just a different feeling of being in the row homes of Philadelphia and the people that lived in the suburbs. They were, quote unquote, the rich people. And a lot of that came from, how I was raised, how my dad is an immigrant, how my mom all felt, right? About the people around them. I don't know. I'm sure there's other podcasts that could unpack it. But here I am feeling very heavy about someone labeling me and my family as that. And by the way, I feel better about it now. Go ahead, label away. I do beautiful things. I support beautiful people with my career and my finances, and I don't need to justify it. I don't need to tell you why or how I spend or make my money, but I often do. I'm pretty forthcoming. But standing there feeling heavy about it, I'll get back to the point. Here comes this podcast, and it was me as a guest. And in that podcast, I tell the story in detail of how shattered I felt after my husband passed and how desperate I felt about how I was going to make ends meet and how I was going to support this family and the loss of control and the loss of a future and how I slowly did it and how Jim and I made a sacrifice to go all in at starting this business and that we didn't know if it was going to work or not, but we knew it was a mission and we knew we had the passion to really help people. And I knew I had the smarts and the education from that mom and dad who were blue collar and sacrificed and traded and bartered for my wonderful education when I was younger. Again, my dad was a janitor for my grade school in exchange for my tuition as his second job. Actually, I think that was his third job as a Philly firefighter. He also painted the outside of houses. Firefighter, he wasn't scared of ladders. The sacrifices my parents made to educate us so that our next generation, my sister and our kids, could maybe not have to work physically as hard. White collar job versus a blue collar. A-okay, if we wanted to be blue collar, I made a killing when I was a bartender. It was fantastic. I always say if anything ever happens or if I go into retirement, I think I'd bartend again. Community, people sitting, having conversation. Loved it. Loved it. Experiencing people in their downtime, experiencing people when they're vulnerable. It was, yeah, yeah, it was a good time. I digress. But in this podcast, I talk about that fear. I talk about building my business. I talk about what worked and what didn't work. And I talked about really getting in a good frame of mind, the mindset. The mindset that was needed for me to finally start feeling the gains of financial success, of feeling the pressure of the desperation of being able to make ends meet lift a little. The feeling of being able to hire staff and pay them well and give them a flexible schedule so that they can raise their kids too. That's a gift. Wow. Because of the business we created, Jim and I, we can bring on a staff of 3, 4 people that they can really balance being parents, bringing in an income, and encouraging them to have that, I hate the term, but I'll use it, work-life balance. Do I model it all the time? Nope. Do I still have 60 to 80 hour work weeks? I do. But that's starting to change. I'm starting to feel it. And so when I was feeling so bad because someone put me in a lump sum category of the people that used to live in the communities that I would go trick-or-treating in to get big chocolate bars outside of my neighborhood in Philadelphia, this podcast really and truly just popped into my vortex, my world, my morning. Didn't expect it, didn't select it. And it was listening to myself tell my story. I became so proud of everything we've built. I became so proud, built when I say my business, my family, my community, how we give back, how my late husband's family has just rallied around Jim and I as we blend this family. I mean, the blessings are amazing. And all of a sudden, it melted away. My problem was someone saying I lived in one of those big stone rich houses. and making a judgment call for that beautiful mural that we did have painted on our wall. For me feeling like I had lost my connection with blue collar and with money, to knowing that I was celebrating the community that is taking care of all of these children, the community that has built my husband, to his friends, to the families that have seen him grow through a young family, through divorce and being a divorcee widower, to a blended family, to welcoming me within this 1 square mile of our borough. Listening to that podcast reminded me of the gratitude of the journey, reminded me of the dedication, reminded me of the community I lean into to learn how to be an entrepreneur and to learn how to stay heart-centered. It reminded me of the mindset shift I had to take from a young widow whose husband took his life, who felt worthless, to the person I am now, who feels full, absolutely full of what I can contribute to this earth each and every day. Go ahead, make your judgments, say what you need to say, because it's my job to make sure that even if you think I'm that person sitting in the big stone house, that you understand how I share my love and my generosity. And what I am rich with is spirit, community, and love. That's what I'm rich with. And I hope that you don't just see that big stone house. It sits on a hill. It does. I hope you see this big family and this big community of love and really what being rich is full of. And so if you're listening and you are struggling as a widow, widower, divorcee, career changer, if you're struggling because maybe there's some money mindset block, or you don't know if it's all worth it, or if, God, for me, the big pull was, am I taking time away from raising my kids to build this business, to create an income? Couldn't I just live smaller and stay at home and live off life insurance money? No, the life insurance money would have ran out. Couldn't have done that. But if you're listening, I hope this has made some impact, because I want you to live big and I want you to want grander things and I want you to give back and I want you to understand that the hard work that you put in, whether it is through parenting, whether you have to go back in the job force or you don't, many of us listeners really are balancing career and parenthood. That's what this whole podcast is about. That if you look at your future self, if you look at your 5, 10 year goal and you read it back, many of times you've accomplished those things in 2 and 3. And your gift isn't just financial. Your gift is your kids watching you build something, watching you be committed, watching you be committed to them, to your community, to your passion, to your employees, to your coworkers, to your clients. The gifts are the experience. The gifts are the person you're becoming and who you're helping next. So don't stop. Keep going. And whether that big stone house is a physical thing or whether it's a foundation that you're building in your home, in your heart, in your community, in your family, in your mind, you just keep going. Turn whatever foreclosure, piece of no sewage, falling apart crap into a home. And I mean that figuratively. For us, it was physically. But I want you to lean in. Don't feel guilty for being okay. Thanks for listening. I appreciate you.